In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to create a 3D layout using the models included in one of our design and make model projects. After we show you how to do that, we're going to demonstrate how to add text to this so you can customize it for your next project. Design and Make is not only just a store where you can purchase thousands of CNC ready, professionally created models for your next CNC project, but also it's a place to get inspiration. If you look across our menu bar here, you're going to see our shop notes posts, which describe our hacks of the week, show off what our customers are doing with our actual content. You can download some free software, which will help you cut very basic parts and will allow you to view for free all of our 3D content in our store. And if you're really ambitious, you can go ahead and download the plans to create your own desktop CNC. Let's have a quick look at the store. When you arrive in our Design and Make store, you have a couple of different things you can do straight away. If you know exactly what you're looking for, you can just search the store and we'll give you all the results that match your search. You can have a browse through our individual model shop. You can have a browse through our project shop, or you can go ahead and view our whole line of products. In this case, we're going to take a look at our project shop, but I do encourage you to come back when you have some time and take a browse through our individual model shop. Also, if you do choose to purchase something from our store, it's important that you do set up a Design and Make account for free, and with that account, you're going to get some free content that you can go ahead and cut or use in your own projects. Let's take a look in the project shop. In the project shop, you're going to find small, curated packs of models, and these models are put together sort of in a theme-based manner so that you can go ahead and create many layouts from a small selection of models. If we go to our food and drink section and you look for the wine bar number 1 project, you'll be presented with this page. And this is a standard page that all of our projects have associated with them. And in this case, we are going to give you a version of this project so that you can follow along with this tutorial. So if you did purchase this project, you would receive all 6 of these individual models. You would get this assembled layout that we created for you that's highly customizable with your own vcarving. It's a layout that we made while we were testing out the models that we felt that our customers would really appreciate and use. You'd also get this project sheet, which you can print out, put in a binder in a folder, and keep it for inspiration later, maybe to show somebody who doesn't have a PC, or maybe a way for you just to kind of get inspiration on what you can do with this project. And to take that one step further, we've also taken the models, the individual models in this project, and created some layout ideas for you so that you can see where this project can take you and the power of us giving you the individual models. Something like this is a beautiful little layout, and same with this, I could see this on a cheese board. Now also, because we give you the individual models, you can go ahead and mix and match them with your existing content in your library, and when you do that, we call that a hack. And in this case, we use some of the models from this project and we add it in an extra banner, and you can see what a great layout we have. Now, as I had mentioned, we are giving you a version of this project for free, and it's only a version. It's only missing one bit, and the bit that it's missing is the assembled layout, because in just a few seconds, I'm going to show you how to make this on your own. So let's go ahead and do that. So to get started, so you can follow along with this video, I highly suggest that you download the tutorial files and install them so you have all the bits that you need to recreate the layout. So let's create a brand new file inside a new instance of our software. And in this case, it's going to be a single-sided job with the width of 24, a height of 12, and a thickness of 1 inch. We're going to be zeroing off the material surface. Our datum will be set to the center just for layout purposes. If this isn't the way that you actually are going to cut the project, you can change it later, but for right now, it's easier to do it this way if you'd like. You're going to choose a very high modeling resolution, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now, If you had chosen to purchase the wine bar #1 project from the Design and Make store, it would be delivered to you like all of our projects are as an installer. You would run that and it would get installed into your default Vectric Clipart library and show up automatically in your Clipart tab. So if we take a look at my Clipart tab, you'll see that we're presented with two folders. The Clipart, this is the Clipart that you've downloaded that comes free with your software. And Design and Make is where any of the projects or collections go that you may have purchased and installed from Design and Make. So if we click on that, we'll be presented with all of the projects that I have installed on my PC. At the very bottom, we're going to find the wine bar #1. Now again, this is the actual purchased project, and with that you get the assembled layout, which is the layout I'm going to show you how to make, and all 6 of the other models. Now what you don't see in our Clipart browser is the actual project sheet that we've given you as well. So if you want to see that or want to find that to look at that for reference or to print it out, then all you need to do is just hover over top of one of the components that we've given you, right click on that and open the containing folder, and that will open up a Windows File Explorer, and it'll open you directly to where this project has been installed. And you'll see that here are all of the included models, including the assembled layout, and also the project sheet. So if we double click on that, you'll see that this is the actual project sheet. Across the top has all the models or silhouettes of all the models that you get, some great ideas or food for thought ideas. And in this particular case, there's also the a reflection or an example of the assembled layout that you get along with this project. And we're going to use this to help us lay out that assembled layout from scratch. Let's minimize that because we might want to look at this later. And we're going to close this down. Now, we need to get access to the files that we've given you with this tutorial, and it would be nice if they would show up in our actual Clipart browser. So let's do that. So we're going to go ahead and add a folder. And if you look through your computer using this browser, on your C drive, you're going to find a folder called Users. Let's open that up. A folder called Public, a folder called Public Documents, a folder called Vectric Files, Tutorial Files, and then inside of this, you are going to see the software name that you have downloaded the tutorial to fit into. In this case, it just happens to be vcarve Pro version 10. I'm going to drop that down, and I'm looking for a Design and Make project. Let's open that up. And then in the Design and Make project files, you're going to see the wine bar #1. Now, if we select that and click OK, then we're going to be adding a third location on our hard drive for our software to look in to find Clipart. And it's called wine bar #1, and it looks almost like the actual purchased project, like I said before, but it's missing the assembled layout. And again, if you want to select one of those components, right click on it and say open containing folder, then you'll be presented with the folder and also the project page for that. Okay. So now that we have our wine bar #1 tutorial file showing up in our Clipart browser, we can start to create our layout. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with our wine bottle. Now this might seem a little bit counterintuitive because we know that the wine bottle actually sits on top of the barrel top. So why not bring in the barrel top first? Well, I could do that, but I want to show you some things that you're going to want to be looking out for as you create your layout and how to fix anything that you don't like. So let's just go ahead and double click on our wine bottle #1, and it's going to appear in the center of our job space, and right away it's selected for us. You can see all the control handles are here. Now if we go ahead and arrange our views horizontally or split our views, you're going to see that the 3D view is now showing at the bottom, and we have the same control handle showing in our 2D view and our 3D view, which is quite handy. It makes it easy to use and to understand. If we go ahead and rotate around our 3D model, you'll see that in our 3D view, you get the actual 3D model. You can look around it. And in our 2D view, you can't do that, but you do have this nice bitmap representation of what you see in the 3D model. So the darker points of the model are near the back, and the lighter points are at the front of your actual component. So you can see how it is kind of shaped by going from dark to light. And that helps you kind of reference how things should look or how things are going to look. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is double click on our barrel top, and it's going to come directly into the center. Now, like I tell everybody who's doing this sort of a layout, that it's always best to do things very organically, to come in and just to kind of start sizing things up, playing around with settings and seeing what you can do with your layout, keeping in mind the material thickness that you have. So holding down your shift key, you can go ahead and drag around the control handles of our barrel top, make it bigger if you would like, make it smaller if you would like. You can slide it around and put it somewhere else if you want to. But for right now, we're going to put that back in the middle of our job again by pressing F9. And I'm going to give you a specific size we're going to work with just so you can follow along and you're not guessing at what I'm doing. So if we go to our drawing tab, we can size this up to an exact size. In this case, our anchor point's in the center, and we're going to change our width to be 10 inches. And it's linked. Our X and our Y are linked. So when we do that, it's automatically going to size up both dimensions. And also we have the auto scale set on, the auto scale of our Z. So the actual Z thickness of our model will change depending on whether we're making this bigger or smaller. So if it gets bigger, it's going to get taller. If we can make it smaller, it's going to get thinner. So let's hit that and apply, and that looks great. Now, if you look at the 3D view, you'll note that we're losing part of our wine bottle inside of our barrel top. So to get a better look at that, we're going to maximize our 3D view. We're going to close down our set size dialog and look at our modeling tab. If we have a look in our component tree, you'll see that the barrel top and the wine bottle are merged into each other. So that's probably our problem right there. If we just double click on the wine bottle, you'll see that there's a slight sort of green haze around it, and also that the profile of our wine bottle is getting eaten away by the texture that's sitting on top of our barrel top, and we need to fix that because it doesn't look very good. So some easy techniques for fixing that are to go to your properties of the wine bottle. So if we go ahead and click on change the properties of our wine bottle, and that's the spanner icon in your modeling tab with a wrench, we can go ahead and mess around with that. But before we actually change anything to do with our wine bottle, let's just take a look at our barrel top. We double click on that, and automatically our component properties dialog changes. It shows us the properties of the barrel top, not the wine bottle anymore. And just to kind of work on this, again, keeping in mind that we have 1 inch of material, I don't want this, our barrel top, to be any taller than a 1/4 inch. That takes up a fair bit of our material, and also because our glasses and our bottle are sitting proud of the plaque along the bottom, if we make this too thick, then we're going to end up having very little space to fit in our other elements. So let's just go with a 1/4 inch to start with, hit our spacebar to update the 3D view, and go back to our wine bottle. Now you'll see that the wine bottle's profile is looking pretty decent, except for it's still tucked inside of our barrel top a bit. And so let's address that by changing or giving it a little bit of a base height to start with. So we'll just say 0.1, and we'll see what happens with that. Press the space bar. Oh, that looks pretty good. We've now cleared all of the texture and everything looks kind of nice. Now, we could have checked beforehand, instead of guessing at this number, we actually could have checked the height or the shape height of any area we want to of this model or the barrel top. So if we go ahead and look down here at the bottom of the screen, the bottom right of the screen, if I scroll over top of any of this texture, you'll see that the Z height changes. So I can see that I just happen to fluke it by the area around here is around 0.1. Sometimes it's a little bit less. So everything looks pretty good. And just visually, and that's the most important bit, it looks spot on, so we're okay. So let's close that down. We know that in our final layout, so if you take a look at that, you'll see that the wine bottle actually peaks above the top of the barrel, which is nice. And we have these two nice wine glasses here that take up a fair amount of space in that area, and they're tilted slightly. So let's just go ahead and see if we can reflect that in here. So if we hold down our Alt key and drag our bottle up, For right now, we'll just leave them there. I see that there's a bit of a problem here, but we'll work on that in a second. Let's go back to our Clipart tab. We're also going to want to tile our views again, and we'll double click on our wine glass and bring that in. And we can move that over here to where we think it should be. And in the 3D view, we can rotate it a bit, we can scale it down. I'm not too worried about how it's interacting with the barrel top. That's really not all that important to me at this point. I just want to make sure that it looks right with my wine bottle. So if I wanted to, if I'm having a problem visualizing that, I can look at my 2D view if I would like, or I can just go to my modeling tab and turn off my barrel top for a second. And that way I can just see these two elements or these two components, and we can work with those the way we want to. I'm just making sure that the scale of my wine glass compared to my wine bottle is pretty close. So let's turn back on our barrel top. And now we need to work on how our wine glass is interacting with our barrel top. So let's bring up our properties again. And we're going to give it a base height of 0.1. And that's going to clear that pretty good. And I'm pretty happy with that right now. And we can always mess around with things a little bit later. So because this is going to be a symmetrical job, left over right, then I'm just going to leave my one wine glass there for now, and we'll mirror them in a few minutes. Let's close that down. So now we're going to go ahead and bring in our next piece of clip art. So if we go to our clip art tab, the next bit is going to be the engraving plaque. So we're just going to double click on that. And let's just go ahead and maximize our 3D view. And we're going to scale that up to what we need. Now using these sizing handles, we can scale it up and down. Holding down the shift key like I just did, you can scale it from the center out. Or I can not do that, let go of my shift key and just scale from the corners, whichever corners I'd like. Of course, I can rotate it, but I can also squish it if I'd like to. Now in this case, I'm going to press F9 and center that where it belongs, and we're going to type in some numbers directly into the software to get the exact shape that we want. So if we go to our drawing tab, again, this is just so that you can follow along. Normally I would just place it where I want it and make it look as good as I can and be happy with that. But in this case, we're actually going to use some real numbers. Now, I've unclicked the link X and Y. That way I can put in two independent numbers here and they won't change at all for me. So we're going to change this to 18 inches across. And we're going to make it 5 inches up and down. And our auto scale is going to be on. We'll hit apply, and that should give us the shape that we need. Close that down. Select it again, and then we're going to, holding down the Alt key, we're going to drag it down so it just covers up the bottom of the barrel. And that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to move it up maybe just a little bit there. Oh, and if we're not quite there, we can just use our cursor keys on our keyboard and we can nudge it down into place. And I'm pretty happy with that. That looks pretty good. Now, you'll see that at the top of this, our engraving plaque is actually merging into our barrel top. And we can go ahead and fix that. We can use under our modeling tab, the spanner or the wrench here to change our properties, or we can also use the floating properties dialog here. So if I click this little dark blue square, you'll bring up our floating properties dialog, which is a condensed version of what you see over here in the modeling tab. Close this down. But this pertains directly to the 3D view. And we can go ahead now and just add a teeny bit of base height to that. 0.1 was perfectly fine. And that will bring it up high enough so it doesn't look like it did a second ago, which is a little bit odd. That looks great. Now we can work along with trying to get our wine glass and our wine bottle to fit properly into our layout. And let's go ahead and take a look at our project sheet again, and you'll see that our wine bottle does cover up a lot of our engraving plaques. We're probably going to need to size it up, and our wine glasses could get a little bit larger as well. So let's just minimize that again. Select our wine bottle, holding down our shift key. We're going to size it up a little bit. Drag it down, holding the Alt key in our center point. Maybe a little bit smaller. And I think that that is a pretty good size. And you'll see I didn't type in any hard numbers there. That's just me. I want my text to fit underneath here, so there needs to be room for that. It's a fairly good size. And I can also go ahead and change my wine glass to be a reasonable size as well to go with that. There we are. And let's rotate that a little bit. And now using a feature called tilt, we're going to go ahead and tilt this wine bottle so that it actually overlaps our engraving plaque. So let's click our wine bottle. And as soon as we select the tilt option, we have the ability to set 2 anchor points. And these anchor points will be at the spot where we're actually going to pivot our tilt or our object or our component. So we're going to click here, we're going to click down here, and then we're going to give it some degrees. Let's start off with 1 degree and hit the space bar, and you'll see that it's starting to tilt. If I move it on its side, it's a little bit easier to see. So let's change this to be 1.5. Not bad. Maybe 2 is a better one. It looks pretty good. Let's make it 2.5. And if we look straight down on our layout again, that looks pretty nice. It wraps over nicely. The top of our bottle looks pretty good. If it did happen to get merged into our rim of our barrel top, then we can just go ahead and select that and maybe give it a little bit more shape to it. And that's almost there, 0.5 maybe. And that looks great, perfect. Okay, it looks really, really good. I'm happy with that. So far, so good. Let's grab our wine glass. We're going to use the same feature again. We're going to tilt that into place. So we're going to set our tilt, drop in our anchor points. 1 here, 1 down here. And we'll give it a 2 degree start. See what we get. Maybe we'll make it 3 degrees. And I'll see that you see that the bottom of the wine glass is actually intersecting our wine bottle. We don't want that to happen, so let's just kind of move him over a bit, rotate it just a little. Maybe use our cursor key just to nudge it over and down a bit. That looks okay. Now we need to still get clear of the top of our engraving plaque and not be proud of our wine bottle. So let's just make this 3.5 degrees, and maybe we'll give it a little bit more base. Maybe a little bit more. 7.5. Oh. And that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. That looks great. So now to get a really good feel for how this looks, let's just go ahead and select this. And if we go to our drawing tab, we can flip this or mirror that across our layout. So we'll click that. We are going to use our flip horizontal, flip about job center. We're going to make sure that we create a mirrored copy. And let's just flip that. There we have it. So it looks, I'm pretty happy with that. Now to finish this up, we need to bring in our grapes and our grape leaf. Let's go back to our Clipart tab, double click on our grapes, grab that and just kind of bring it in there. I'm not going to size it any, I'm just going to cradle it in that little divot in this corner of our engraving plaque. That looks pretty nice. Let's bring in another set of grapes and drag it over. Instead of using in the drawing tab, the flip or the mirror selected object, if I just press H on my keyboard with that selected, you'll see that it's going to flip that horizontally for me, and I can just move it down where I think it needs to belong. Right about there. Let's just bring this guy, rotate him just a little. Maybe a little bit more. I want those two stems to kind of interact nicely together. And then we're going to select the second set that we made, and we're going to do a tilt again. set my 2 anchor points. I'm going to anchor it from here. I'm going to tilt here, and we're going to make it 1 degree, and we'll see what happens. And that looks perfect. Let's look straight down, and I'm happy with that. What I might do, just because there's a tiny gap here, I might select those grapes, and using my cursor keys, I'll just nudge it over so that gap is gone. Might cause us trouble later. We don't want that. Let's go back to our Clipart tab and bring in our grape. Let's double click on that. Goes right to the center of our job. We can just grab the center and pull it over. We're trying to fill in this area a little bit here, and also overlap our job. That looks pretty good. And again, we're going to use our tilt. So we'll select tilt, set to there. We'll give it 2 degrees. See what happens. Now you'll see at the back, it doesn't matter how much tilt I give this, we're going to end up having problems because we don't have enough base height to get above these components back here. So if we just give it a quick little bit here, you'll see that now it's proud of that. That looks great. We'll make this 3 degrees maybe. That way it clears everything that we need to. We're going to change our shape height a little bit to 3.5 just because it's quite bold. Let's change this to 4 degrees maybe. That looks great. And now if we go ahead and look around this, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's close that. Even though you see some of the green here, that's okay because I know it's there, but the actual final layout, you're not going to see that, or nobody's ever going to see that. We're going to select that grape. And again, we're just going to use our cursor keys and just nudge it over just a little bit. Make it look a little bit nicer. That looks great. Now looking at this again, I see that this set of grapes in behind here is totally covered up by our leaf. So I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to move this leaf over a little bit. That way I can see a little bit of our grapes in the background kind of peeking through. And I like that a little bit better. It was kind of silly just having this stem sticking out there. Now, that looks excellent. Let's go to our modeling tab, and we're going to select, holding down our shift key, the grapes, the grape leaf, and our 2 copies of grapes. We're going to right click on that, and we're going to group those together. And we're going to mirror those across the center of our job again. So if we go to our drawing tab, we're going to use our mirror selected objects. It's remembered the settings we had before, so we're going to flip it horizontally across. And this should actually finish up our layout for us in the end. We can close that down. Now we know that in the end we have this great area here that we can add in some V-carving. We could add in a person's last name, maybe a seller name, maybe your favorite kind of wine. But in this case, we're going to add on some very simple text. And let's have a look at the actual project sheet so we can see what we're kind of shooting for. In this case, it's the word vintages with the V and the S larger than all the other letters, and all the other letters, including the V and the S, are all uppercase. So we are going to try and do that same thing. Let's put that away for a second, and let's have a look at our 2D view. That way we can tell where our text needs to go. Now the first thing you're going to see when you look at this is that these are not in the right order. So we can't see the bottom of our wine bottle. The bottom of this wine glass is missing. These grapes are proud of the engraving plaque. And in the 3D view, they're not that way at all. So let's just tile those for a sec. The bitmaps in the 2D view are only representations of the actual 3D components. The order that they're in does not affect the finished 3D layout, but they do affect, in our case, where we have space to put our text. So, or the reference that we need to know where we're going to put our text. So we need to sort that out. So let's maximize our 2D view. Press F on the keyboard to focus that so it fills in our whole view. And let's work at sorting out the order of these. So to move bitmaps up and down through the layer of bitmaps, almost like a stack of paper, we need to select the bitmap that we want to move, right click on that, and then we can choose move to front or move to back. So in this case, it's the barrel top. We're going to move it to the back. And when we off click it, then you'll see that now it's moved to the back. Let's do the same with the wine glass. Let's select it, right click on it, and we'll say move to front and we off click it, it's exactly where it needs to be. Same with our wine bottle, move to front. And now we have a bit of a problem. We want to move this set of grapes to the back, but we can't because it's still part of our group over here. And when we group components together, they become one object that we can move around. It's a temporary one object, but it's one object that we can move around, and it's really quite handy. But in this case, we can't move the individual components inside of it, the bitmap representations, up and down. So we're going to need to right click on that and ungroup that, and then select this set of grapes, right click and say move to back, double click on the grape leaf, right click on that and say move to front, off click that, and this end looks right. We're going to do the same with this end, select it, right click it, ungroup it, select this set of grapes, right click it, say move to back, double click on this grape leaf, select it and move to front, right click it, and that looks great. Now all of our 2D bitmaps now represent as close as we can what our 3D layout looks like. We can check that again just by tiling this really quick, and that looks okay, but you will see that there are some limitations to this where the grape here runs into our engraving plaque. It actually looks like it overlaps, but really it actually merges into it. But those things you can kind of overlook because really all we want is just this area right here. We want to make sure that our text doesn't run into any of these objects. So let's maximize that. Press F again on our keyboard and go ahead and grab our draw text tool. We're going to type in the word vintages. Now it's all going to be in uppercase caps. So VINTAGES. And we want to make sure that we choose our proper font. Now, in our fonts list, the first 5 are going to be fonts that we've used in the past. And then, of course, the rest of our lists follow suit under that. And you can just scroll through all your stuff, or if you happen to know the first letter of the font you want, you can press, in my case, L for Lucinda. So I'm going to go down and look for Lucinda Bright. And that's the font I want to use. I want it to be bold. We may as well align it to the center, and we're going to close that down. That looks perfect. We can select it and press F9 on the keyboard. By grabbing the center and holding our Alt key, we can drag it down. Now we want it to fit between the bottom of our engraving plaque and the bottom of our wine glasses. So we can just kind of eyeball that in there. I think that looks pretty good like that. The next thing we're going to tackle is the spacing here isn't really good with this font. So we can change that by using our edit text spacing on it. So we can click that. And if we click between the letters, you'll see that it will change the spacing between them. Now in this case, it brought the V and the I closer together, but if we hold down the Shift key, we can actually give us more space, and we'll just move along. Click those. We will move the A, tuck it under. The G looks good. Just want to fix the spacing a bit. Some fonts really don't have great spacing. And that looks pretty nice right there. So I'm happy with that. And now we need to make the V and the S larger, like we saw in the project sheet. So if we have our vintages selected and we right click on that, we can convert that to curves. And what that does is it now turns it from a font into a set of curves, and we can go ahead and edit these independently, each letter, but they're really not letters, they're just curves. So you need to keep that in mind. So if we unclick that and then we select the V, we can just go ahead and press T on our keyboard, which brings up our scale set size box. And we can just go ahead and change the height of that to be 2.5. I'm just guessing, and hit apply. And I'm pretty happy with that actually, so that's good. Let's go and select our S. And we're going to do the same thing with that. The height is going to be 2.5. Let's apply that. And that looks great, and close that down. Now, because these aren't, it's not a word anymore, we need to actually select these letters and manually move them into place. And because I size them from the center out, then I just need to actually nudge them left and right using my cursor keys, and maybe up a little, just because I'm worried about this, the spacing here. select both of those holding down my shift key, use my nudge key up one, and there we go. I'm really happy with that. Now just to make everything easy and nice and clean, I'm going to go ahead and box select all of my letters, and I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to group those back into one group again. Now they're not a font, so I can't change the spelling or anything like that, but definitely they'll all move around now on their own. Now I am really happy with all of that. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and view that in my shadow shade mode so I can get a really good look at what that's going to look like in 3D. I'm happy with that. I know where my text is going to be. It should fit in there quite nicely. So let's go File, and we're going to save this off into our tutorials folder. So we're going to go out of our wine bar number 1 into our project files, and we're going to save this off as design _ ampersand make _ 3D _ assembly, and save that off. If you really would like to take a look at the offering at Design and Make, please do. It's www.designandmake.com. Go on over there when you have some spare time and have a look around and see if anything might pique your interest. If you don't have a free account set up, I really highly recommend that you do. That way you get access to some more free content that you can take down and you can use in your own projects. Until next time, thank you for watching.